Hello and welcome to your final week of Cultural Geography online. Hopefully at this point you feel like a pro. You understand how this online class thing works. You understand what the expectation is. You're feeling comfortable with the deadlines, and now we go and throw a major wrench in it, which was why I mentioned it quite a few times for the last several weeks. This class ends on Friday. Please, please, please remember that. I have made mention of this several times in previous videos and other emails, and you have heard from Dr. Couch in the online office reminding you that this class closes on Friday. To make sure you understand what that means, there are no assignments accepted beyond Friday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. There's no late work, nothing. This class closes at Friday, 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time. I know I'm being a little obnoxious with it, but I just want to make sure you hear me. You have several assignments this week. As I mentioned to you, this week's a little bit heavier in content than I probably would have planned it otherwise, but you have several assignments that I'm going to go through in just a minute, but I first want to make sure that you know what you're supposed to finish up in the textbook so you feel really comfortable doing the work here in Canvas. You have just chapters 12 and 13. Chapter 12 is called Human Settlements, and chapter 13 is called Environment and Resources. And these are kind of a nice icing on the cake. If I had my way, I would pick like maybe a chapter 14 to go on top that kind of sums it all up. But hopefully the material in Canvas will give you some of that material as far as closing everything up. And as you work your way through this, do keep in mind you've got some supplemental materials there that might help you, and maybe will give you a little bit of that closure you and I want. So as you work your way through this, I want to remind you that you are essentially working in units 7 and 8. And as I walk through what's due this week, please keep in mind that they all are going to mimic or in some way be a response to chapters 12 and 13. So again, having read that, it's going to really set you up for a better situation. I'll also say this really quick before I move into what's being asked of you this week, and that is that you are supposed to be really mindful of the world around you. Culture itself is something that we have got to do a better job from this point forward, understanding our place in it, our responsibility to preserving our own culture, but also setting up safe space for other cultures. And that's part of what you've been looking at, what you'll certainly look at with chapter 12 and 13, but even some of the previous chapters. I think sometimes we get into this mindset of to the victor go the spoils, and with that we are losing valuable resources in other cultures. So as you do units 12, I'm going to get out in a second. As you do units 7 and 8, keep in mind that we are truly trying to learn and to embrace the idea of growth in terms of we're better people when we understand other cultures and from those kind of the perspective of those around us and those even further out. So units 7 and 8, you're going to have one discussion question, you're going to have 3 video quizzes, 4 map assignments, and then you have 2 assignments plus your assessable artifact, which is the big assignment, the 100-point assignment I've been talking about for several weeks now, and you've been getting emails about. So as I move through this material, I'm going to save a separate video to explain the assessable artifact. Again, for some of you, that's not going to be necessary, but I thought I would just kind of go above and beyond to make sure we're all clear on that. This particular week, your discussion question, you have to respond with your initial post by Wednesday. It's the one that's called Global Homogenization. Make sure that you are following the directions there, that you are fully exploring the questions that are being asked. You'll need to respond to 2 of your classmates by Friday at 11:59 p.m. Central Standard Time, but your original post, as always, is due on Wednesday. The video quizzes, you have one called Multiple Husbands, and then you have one called How the Internet Enables Intimacy, which my thought is, for many of you, this is going to be kind of old hat. You're either seeing this in television or movies, or maybe you have friends or know people who have done the online dating thing. I was reading a study recently that tells us that due to quarantine and coronavirus and kind of this idea of how do we be safe in an unsafe world, we're seeing more and more of this idea of internet dating. And this really explores it more than just internet dating, of course, but it's a really good jumping off point for conversations that are going to be relevant for some time, I think. And then you also have, if you scroll down into Unit 8, you have a video quiz called A Day in a Life of an Anthropologist. And this is important given what you've done this whole 6 weeks in regards to really the subject of the class and how to better understand the study that we've essentially done on kind of a really more specific scale, but what we've done is a much more general scale. You have maps 16, 18, number 1, and 14. So make sure you do all of those. My one complaint about this is that sometimes maybe you're maybe potentially missing the entirety of the question. But I want to make sure that you're not just answering the first thing that pops up on your screen or on the page if you've printed it. Make sure you're actually answering all the questions within the question. But again, I mentioned to you at the very beginning, the point of these map assignments isn't to scramble your brain, because I know for some of you this was really, really out of your comfort zone. But I think that we need to be at a point that we can actually read a map so we better understand the world around us. And as best I can tell, once you learn how to do that, once you learn how to read a map, it's not a skill that just goes away, kind of like riding a bike. You're going to remember how to do this. So if in 30 years you find yourself in a position where you need a map, you're going to know how to read it. I'm quite confident of that. Your assignments this week are called Gender and Society. Let me scroll up, sorry. Gender and Society. There we go. And do make sure that you take the time to do this. I love this particular assignment because part of what you're doing is doing a little bit of research, better understanding the conversation around this, but also you're going to give me some feedback about your experiences or what you see around you. And I love, love, love reading this. The second assignment that you've got this week is called Indigenous Cultural Lands. And again, this idea is something that's important to us as Americans. We need to be much more aware of this as the conversation is not going away, and it shouldn't. So make sure that you do both of those assignments. And then, of course, the Graded Assessable Artifact, which I'm going to actually upload a separate video for that in just a few minutes here. And I'll actually upload it here so that you can find it quite easily. But otherwise, I appreciate you guys. I hope that you've had a good experience here. I know it's really compact, and on some levels, it feels like it's a lot of work in a short amount of time. But again, keep in mind, you've gotten a 15-week class in 6 weeks. So hope you feel like you've gotten a lot of value for your buck. Thanks for your attention. Let me know if you've got some questions on any of these items, and I will be looking forward to reading your homework soon. Bye.